Hello, this is Craig Mertens, Director of Product Education for Inktavo, the parent company of InkSoft, Printavo, Graphics Flow, Sign Tracker, and Clarity. Welcome to our webinar today. Today, I have a very special guest. I have Ken White, who's the VP of Sales of Cotton Heritage, and we are going to be talking about positioning and selling and marketing premium apparel. And I promise you, we will give you some great insights about why that is generally a good idea. And I think most people are encouraged by making more money. And I think, Ken, that's what we're here to talk about is how you can make more money. So I'm going to introduce Ken here, quick little bio, and tell us a little bit about yourself and Cotton Heritage.
Thanks, Craig. I appreciate it. Thanks for hosting this. I'm Ken White, first of all, Vice President of Sales, as you said, for Cotton Heritage. I've been in the apparel industry for close to 30 years now. Spent a lot of those years wholesale into retail, and for the last 10 years in the blank space. Cotton Heritage, we're a premium blank provider. Everything we do, we look at it being elevated. We're looking at premium blanks, men's, women's, children's tees, men's, women's, children's fleece. Everything, again, as I said, elevated, premium, combed, ring spun cotton, side seam. So all of the things that, raise the quality, the level, and the brand that we're driving. So Cotton Heritage, again, premium blank provider.
Okay, so first of all, what is your mode of distribution? How do you guys sell?
So we are mill direct. So we are the distributor. We are the manufacturer and distributor. We have 3 warehouses, one here in LA, one in Dallas, and one in Martinsville, Virginia. So we're able to hit the majority of the country within that critical 3-day ship window. So again, you're working directly with us. You're coming to the source. So that allows us to obviously, deliver a product at a great price, but also, we're just very much connected with our customers. We build very strong customer relationships and love those partnerships. We do work with some of the smaller regional distributors, so you can be found. Or Cotton Heritage can be found, I should say, within some of those smaller regional distributors.
It was interesting. I got a Cotton Heritage account. Thank you for setting me up. And I was kind of digging through there. And honestly, I was pretty surprised at how well priced you guys are. And I guess that adds up because you guys are mill direct. And I think a lot of consumers prefer to, kind of cut out the middle person and deal mill direct. I think it's a huge amount of value. So where do you feel like your position in the marketplace? Like, where do you kind of slide in there?
So again, a premium blank, the words I use is we're never going to win on price. If a customer is coming to us looking for a cheap blank, I politely say that we're not the right fit. I want to take that conversation further with that customer and let them know the value that comes from an elevated blank and really kind of the price value relationship. When I look at our pricing, we are very competitively priced. And I think, again, when you look at that price value relationship, what we're offering for that price elevates what that customer is looking to do. They're going to deliver a better product to their customer in the end run. Better printability, too. Everything we do is combed, ring spun cotton. We then use an enzyme wash, which cleans the fabric of those loose fibers. So you're printing on a much cleaner, much better surface. So you get a much better print, be it screen print, direct to garment, even heat transfers. You're going to see better results.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I feel like for you, it's not a disproportionate amount, but I always wondered, why are so many of the vendors at the trade shows printing on Cotton Heritage, especially the DTG guys? And that makes sense. They want to put their best foot forward and they want something that prints great. And I know that Cotton Heritage has done a great job around that. One of the things that, we talked about yesterday a little bit, this came as a shock to me, but I was interviewing a customer and had a webinar regarding pricing. And she said, Craig, I don't even show like basic commodity level products to customers. That's something I drop down to. And I just assume that, like you're setting up an online store or you're talking to a customer that you just lead with the basics. And she was like, no, we lead with our premium apparel lines. And I asked her straight up, why is that? She goes, we make more money on it. The customer gets a better product. We make a better margin. Why would I want to lead with something that's going to line me up as a commodity? So with that being said, how do you really define premium apparel across the board?
I think you've touched on a few of the points. It's really kind of the make. All T-shirts are not created equal. Again, everything we do is combed ring spun cotton versus carded cotton. So you're going to get a much better feel. The garment's going to be more comfortable. It's going to feel better when you're wearing it. It's going to have a softer hand, better stretch. And then, all of those things, again, relate to the benefit of printing on a cotton heritage T-shirt as well. I think when I look at our customer base, we're looking and working with a lot of customers that are putting their brand on something, and many of them, are selling it into a retail environment. So, I think it's important that, one, you're maintaining the integrity of your brand. You want to put your brand on a garment that becomes that customer's favorite T-shirt, that go-to T-shirt. And then you want to stand out from the crowd when you're hanging in that retail environment, against several other competitors. You want to stand out. You want to look better. You want to feel better. And I think, again, using a premium blank allows you to do that. The benefit, as you said too, you're going to be able to charge a higher retail price for the garment. I think when we look at the business as it stands currently, there's fewer customers out there. You have, if you're a retail store, you have fewer customers coming into your store. So you want to maintain that average unit retail. You want to keep that average unit retail as high as you can, and be able to provide, a quality garment, a garment that justifies that price. So again, we go to that price value relationship that, I think we hit that sweet spot. We're giving our customers a great premium blank. They're then decorating it and delivering to their customer. And I think like I said, there's a very strong price value relationship that comes from that.
It's interesting. I kind of look back to my early days in the industry. My parents had a sportswear company called Desert Sportswear. And one of the things that we did, Champion had a plant here in Arizona, and where they made the reverse weave and their heavyweight 77 QS T-shirt. Funny how you remember those model numbers, right? And we reopened that plant and we started building our own private labeled Champion reverse weave and these heavyweight T-shirts. And it was just wired into my psyche. When I was working with the college bookstore, I would always lead with the premium apparel because I was doing the math in my head about my commissions. I made 10% commission. If I sold a $24 reverse weave, I was making $2.40. And if I sold a 9-ounce raglan sleeve sweatshirt, there used to be such a thing, I'd make, $1. And so, I think that, I think it maths out pretty good. We were chatting yesterday about, do you want to sell $2, brand X T-shirts with a, one color, dollar print on it, $3, sell it for $8, make $5? Or do you want to do something with a premium decoration process, nice multicolored screen print, premium T-shirt, wholesale it out for like $12 or $15 and make $7 a shirt? Your choice. So I think the math on premium decorated apparel is really good. And, we can't discount there are certain customers and situations where the commodity driven stuff is just, it's only the only thing that's going to work.
And even in that commodity driven arena, I have a story where we were working with a customer, NHL team, an East Coast team, NHL, and it was, one shirt on every seat in the arena. And they had been using a T-shirt that, was working for them. They were delivering a printed garment, but they realized that, that garment was being worn once. It didn't feel good. Right. It fit okay. If you washed it, it shrunk too much, so you never wore it again. I was able to, kind of talk through and convince this customer that for about 50 to 75 cents more, they're going to get a better quality T-shirt, still very affordable for that giveaway, very promotional event that we're talking about. But the customer was going to wear it more frequently. So more impressions, a better ROI. Whoever the brand was that was putting their logo on and technically paying for that garment, got more impressions. So again, a much better ROI based on just a slightly better, more elevated T-shirt.
Well, you kind of pre-answered my next question, was how do you get around that price resistance when people, there's certain, I think we all know, in working in business, there's certain people that are just wired for price. That's where they're wired, but they're also pretty easy to convince with that value argument. If you have an open mind, how would you, kind of encourage decorators to really approach that price resistance?
I think, again, we've kind of touched on it already, the examples you were using. Start out high, start out showing your customer a premium blank, a better quality blank. If it works for them and the event or opportunity that is being presented, better to start there and show them again the quality. And not just with the t-shirt, with the printing as well. You can, have a good, better, best scenario, not just with the garment, but with the printing as well. You can put more into, that print, be it, adding either, from one color to multicolor, multicolor to adding some texture, multiple hits, a chest hit, a back hit, whatever you can do, is going to kind of expand and allow that customer to deliver a better product, a more higher priced product that will again return that that gross margin that we're all looking for. So,
yeah, I think it's a matter of mindset too. I know in my lengthy sales career, if you come in with any kind of exposing any kind of weakness in your sales pitch where you're almost like apologizing for something to being more expensive, I think customers really feed off that. And it's so much easier. You can always drop, if there's a price resistance thing and you need to drop, you can do that. But it's really it's much harder to upsell if you start with something of real low quality. And I think a lot of it has to do with your, for lack of a better word, swagger or your confidence level. Like you are making a strong suggestion. And I think especially when you're working with, school groups and you're working with corporate, coming in and said, this is what I recommend. We work with Cotton Heritage. It's a premium brand. You're going to like the way it feels on your skin. It's going to wash terrific. It's going to print great, and you're going to get a better product. And I think if you lead with that strong statement and that conviction, it's a lot easier for you to position premium products. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree completely. And I'll give an example of, how the product kind of speaks for itself. This would be more or less in a trade show environment where you're having multiple people come into a booth, all stand there and start talking about, our tees. And there's one shirt specifically, it's MC 1082. It's our 5.5 ounce combed ring spun side seam, great shirt. It's a little heavier than most of what is, generally out in the market. So when that customer's coming in again in that trade show environment, and I'm talking about, this t-shirt, I'm still holding it. I literally see their eyes rolling back in their head. And it's like, dude, come on, it's a t-shirt. Inevitably, when I hand it to them and they put their hands on it, oh, wow, this really is nice. That is always the response I get. So again, it is going to be a shirt that is a little bit more elevated. It is probably going to be more expensive than what they may be used to putting in front of their customers. But the reaction I get when I hand it to them is going to be the same reaction they're going to get when they put it in front of their customers. And again, we're talking about branding here. We're talking about, elevating your brand and taking the proper care of your brand, treating your brand the way you want it to be treated. So I think when we're, looking at a blank, it makes a difference. And it's going to, again, just elevate that brand.
Yeah, the puppy dog clothes, right? They put it in your hand and it's like, I didn't plan on signing these adoption papers, but here we go, right?
Yeah.
And, it's interesting you mentioned that, I think we don't talk enough about sampling. People spend all this money on, obviously SEO and, social media ads. I mean, they do work. It's an important part of this. But let me tell you, old school in it and dropping a sample on somebody, and you have a good sample, and it doesn't even have to have a fancy graphic. It could just be your logo or a community logo around your state or your community, and people feel that and they touch it, and best thing they can do is wear it. Then you're going to be putting them into that premium apparel.
Everything we do, our DNA is about the hand feel of the garment.
Right.
It is about just an elevated, great feel, great printability. So I'm, as I said, a huge proponent of samples and getting samples into our customers' hands. If it's setting up their showroom with a range of hang tag samples, or if it's just getting them a sample to get to their customer or getting them a sample to run a test print. Aside from samples, I'm also big on, hey, let's run a test print before you do something. If you're going to do a discharge, if you're going to do any kind of special process, let me get you, 3 or 4 samples and make sure that we're all good and we're, going to see the results that we expect. So yeah, I'm a big believer in samples.
Yeah, and it kind of does play into that good, better, best thing. If you especially in an in-person situation where you have a showroom and they can actually touch it and feel it. It's kind of just the hand's going to do the work for you. We kind of started talking about decoration, and a friend of mine said something profound years ago that's kind of stuck in my head. People don't buy the blank shirt, they buy the decoration, and the shirt is oftentimes a secondary consideration. But you can really raise the level of not only your profitability, but your quality by matching a decoration process that's premium, and a great graphic that's premium to a premium garment. It feels like it's kind of a waste, to have these wonderful garments and then do something, like a boring one color weathered effect print on them. Not that doesn't sell, but
I'll say vice versa too. If you're a very accomplished screen printer and you're going to do an elaborate print, you want to put it on the right garment. You want to put it on a garment that is of the same level. The joke, if you're an artist, and you're painting your masterpiece, you want to use the best canvas you can use. So same thing applies here. And I look at some of the customers we've got that sell into there's one customer in particular that has their own chain of retail stores. Being in Southern California, we're big into the surf and skate industry, and this is somebody that kind of plays in that arena. And they have great licensing agreements, so they have some great artwork, and they wanted to put that art on the right shirt. And they used again MC 1082, our 5.5 ounce tee, and it really just lends itself to the quality. And when you walk into their stores, you can see they are their own stores. They're not carrying multiple lines. So they are company owned stores, and they have a very high standard as far as the housekeeping standards within that store. Their stuff is impeccable. Everything is folded nice and neat. And, they're using a great blank with great imagery and delivering a product and putting a product out in the store that just, really warrants that, the full package.
Well, you're on the field a lot too, and so you get to see the decorating processes. What do you feel are like the most popular decoration process? Let's kind of take aside screen printing and DTF for a second. But premium decoration process, what are you seeing people utilizing to decorate cotton heritage apparel?
Clearly we are and have really carved a nice niche for ourselves within the direct garment industry. Everything we do, again, combed, ring spun cotton. The key is really the enzyme wash that we apply to the shirt, which cleans the shirt of those loose fibers. So especially when you're talking direct to garment, it's printing on the shirt itself as opposed to that layer of lint, basically, that exists on most cotton garments. So I think you're going to see a better quality print and better results. So the DTG market has really embraced us. Screen printers love it too, for similar reasons. That lint doesn't clog up their screens, so it keeps them more efficient, especially if they're doing multiple runs or multiple imprints. They don't have to stop and clean those screens down. The range of printing quality. I mean, some of the things I'm seeing with screen printers specifically, there's one that we work with here locally that they're actually an ink manufacturer, and they do an amazing job on some of the test runs that they do for their screen print. Some of the detail and the textures that they're getting are amazing. So it's a pretty broad spectrum from just that one color, chest hit to, again, some of the multicolors, the layering texture effects that are being put onto some of the screen print, along with metallics and so on. So it's a pretty, it is a very broad spectrum that I'm seeing from screen printers right now.
It's interesting. We were chatting yesterday about DTF versus DTG, and I'm a big fan of both, but I never sell DTG short. I certainly because of the print on demand, functionality. But the other thing too is, I always forget on direct to film transfers, I have a white underbase on there no matter what. It could be on a lighter color like white or ash or natural. It's still going to have that white underbase. You're going to still have a heavier hand, where with the DTG, you don't need that white when you're doing the lights. And it feels to me a lot more like a water-based ink. What's been your experience around that?
I would agree. And I think, I think all three formats, screen printing, direct to garment printing, and DTF, all have a place and all will survive. I don't see any of them going away anytime soon. I think they all serve a purpose. I think they have all created their niche. I do think that, the direct to garment printing, can just be almost invisible. You sometimes can't even feel it. It can be very light when it's done correctly, and has a very nice, soft hand. I think sometimes when you get into the DTF, it can get a little layered, a little heavier sometimes. And then, screen printing, sometimes that's the end result. That's the desired result with screen printing is something that has, more substance, a bigger presence on the shirt. That's part of the allure. That's part of, what that brand was probably going for. So I really do think that all three have, a significant position in the market and will continue to do so.
One thing I wanted to touch on was the concept of private labeling and tearaway labeling. Could you get into that a little bit and discuss like how that fits into your strategy at Cotton Heritage?
Yeah, everything we do has a tearaway tag. So it makes it very easy for our customers to take that tag out and, put in a woven label if that's their choice, do a screen print if that's their choice. And it allows them to, make things their own. It allows them to get as special and as exclusive as they need to be with their brand. Personally, within Cotton Heritage, we have the ability to do that at point of manufacturer as well. So we can do private label programs where we are putting the customer's brand in and delivering, somewhat of a full package product to them, depending on what it is they're really looking for. If it's just a relabeling, we can do that. If it is, full package, hang tags, poly bags, we can do that as well. But I think really our core customers are brands that are looking and working with their screen printers to develop, their programs with a quicker turn and limited inventory investment. So the fact that we have that tearaway tag and there are, many options available to them to label it as it works best for them.
What would it take minimum order quantity and lead time? I guess there's two questions. One, obviously to get it sewn in as a woven label. But, the other one would be to do a typical, custom program around private label. What are we talking about minimum order quantity and lead time?
We have a very easy entry point to that in working with Cotton Heritage. Our minimum is generally going to be 1,200 pieces. That will sometimes vary depending on, the nature of the fabric. And, really that's going to be the key component. But if it's one of our core fabrics, we're looking at roughly 1,200 units in roughly 120 days after final approval. So we would have, some back and forth if it's a color, if it's a label that that customer is looking to put into that garment, or anything else that would require us to decorate that garment. Final approval from that moment on, we're looking at roughly 120 days.
Yeah, it was interesting. We were on vacation in Oregon, and I talked my wife into taking us on the Tillamook tour, which was a very expensive tour for a free tour. I think we got out of there about $120 because we bought designer cheese for our kids, and then I had to get a Tillamook t-shirt, which of course I spent 20 minutes picking out just the perfect t-shirt. But everything they had in there had their own label. Every single garment, every piece of headwear had the Tillamook label in it. And one of the things they did that was really smart, they sized all the way up to triple. They had everything from toddler to triple X. So what's your thoughts on offering the big sizes?
We clearly have seen a shift over the years, to the left of, to the right of the scale, going up into the 2X, 3X, 4X, 5X. We go as high as 5X. We are limited. We will not offer every color, every style in 5X, but we will certainly cover the core. But there's no doubt about it. We have seen a significant shift in, 2X, 3X, 4X, 5X over the years. I think we will continue to do so.
I notice also you're pretty deep into the youth market. That's really an interesting play for me. Thinking about packaging things together. Would you like fries with that? Coordinates, homecoming, here's your sweatshirt for your kid. Here's your sweatshirt for grandpa, who's a bigger person.
Right.
How big a part of your business is the youth market?
We see exactly what you just said. I refer to it as a family reunion. They want the kids, the moms and the dads to have, all the same color and same basic quality of t-shirt. Obviously, it's going to be a different style, different spec completely, but it's difficult. What's interesting about this business too, as I said earlier, I spent many years in the wholesale into retail, primarily department stores. And that was back when department stores were relevant. If you look at the nature of that business, it is far and away a woman's business.
Sure.
70%, if not more, of that department store apparel section anyway is devoted to women's. This blank industry is the complete opposite. It is really driven by a men's or a unisex tee. So our men's business is significantly, the driving force for us. Our women's business, we spent a great deal of time and made a significant investment into our women's business about 2.5, 3 years ago now, and totally redesigned our women's line, working with a designer, but more importantly, working with her pattern maker. So we really spent a great deal of time and energy developing the fit. We have a classic crew, a boyfriend tee, a V-neck, a high-low, and then one that's really trending for us is a high-waisted tee. But the point, we really developed a fit and spent a great deal of time and energy working on the fit. So because of that, we've seen our women's business grow significantly. But it is still, and in this industry in general, it is still a significantly smaller piece of the total business when you're looking at men's. And then to the point, the youth business is even smaller. So, we're chasing the youth business where we can and trying to maintain some of the core styles, colors, in that, but it's challenging to say the least.
I'm going to share my screen here. I had an intuitive thought yesterday. I said, hey, it'd be kind of silly for us to have a webinar, considering, InkSoft is one of our major brands, and not feature some Cotton Heritage products in a store. So I built out a store yesterday with some Cotton Heritage products in it. And it got me thinking a little bit. One of the recommendations I do when I'm talking to customers about like building out fundraising programs, one of the things I always like to talk about is, keeping within a single brand, especially on your basics. I think there's a lot of appeal to the consumer. I know how my brain is wired. If I have one brand of shirt and have a different brand of hoodie and have a different brand of crew neck, I kind of like having everything kind of match and fit. And so when I built this store, obviously I used Cotton Heritage, but premium decoration, to these products. And so I actually built a little appliqué. This is quite an easy thing for me to do. I have a wonderful software called Drawings that allows me to create these great appliques and embroideries. And I just kind of spun this up real quick. I thought that really looked pretty terrific, that multicolor applique in there. And then I also did just a simple little patch layout, which I could have just as easily coordinated and matched that up on a Richardson 112 hat. Coordinates are kind of cool. What do you tell customers about coordinates? Like that kind of, would you like fries with that? What's your thought on that?
Where we've developed programs, programs that are being sold into that retail environment, exactly as you said, they want a collection. They want to see a Cotton Heritage short sleeve tee, the proper long sleeve version of that as well. So again, I'm going to go to MC10 1082, which is our 5.5 ounce. And then we'll do that same weight, 5.5 ounce in a long sleeve. And then layering in our pullover hood and crew neck. So most of our customers are looking to develop a collection within Cotton Heritage, as opposed to just doing a one-off and picking one from us and then one from one of our competitors. So I think that, not with everybody, but I think that mentality exists that, again, working with a collection, the colors are more relatable, the feel is more relatable, the fit is more relatable when you kind of build that collection.
Yeah, it's interesting, when I was building this store out and I launched onto your website, I didn't have a user account. And so I was like, let's go over here to resources. When you're talking about images, especially for a store, having flats is actually a huge advantage. Obviously, if you're trying to give somebody an idea of what it's going to look like, you're going to have a person photo, right? But when I'm doing like stores and, I don't really want to have a person in there. And I thought it was really pretty terrific that you had both options, and your flat library is stellar. And it also syncs up with Dropbox, which was really easy for me because I just all of a sudden it just showed up in my Dropbox account.
One thing that I will point out too, right at the top where it says mock up your garment, we have a software tool on our website that will allow the customer to do exactly that. They can download the image, download their artwork, place it, build just what you just did as well. Build the image, do that exactly, and it is available on our website with most of our core styles, and has been very well received, and is a great tool just to help those customers be able to present something to their customer with the artwork placed strategically, appropriately on a cotton heritage garment.
Yeah, it's interesting seeing how mock-up generation has almost become an industry standard now, and it's really impactful. We used to have to drag samples around, and now we can do all that virtually. So let me show you kind of how I got this store set up. So first things first, I think, Ken, how you and I first met was you said, "Hey, what are we going to have to do to get into the InkSoft product feed?" I think that's how we first met, and he said, "Well," and I said, "Hey, listen, that's great. Let's get you on the list because we're completely redoing the product feed for both InkSoft and our Inktavo to a unified feed based on promo standards, and you guys are in promo standards. Let's get you at the top of the list." But in the interim, it's pretty easy to get cotton heritage products into InkSoft. And so what I did this yesterday, didn't take me very long, is went over, and I'm in the InkSoft eCommerce and online store platform, and I went over to products, and I just said bulk product upload, and I went to your website, I downloaded this whole Excel template and your photos, and all I had to do is populate the Excel template with the product description, sizes, all that. And then what it'll do is it'll automatically suck in the photos. I just have to tell the spreadsheet, hey, the photo for the front is named this, the photo for the front back is named this. And then when I upload that template and those photos as a zip file, what it does is it creates the products for me. So you can do that in bulk. And so I also went and added Cotton Heritage as an actual brand in InkSoft too. And so it was pretty easy. I just did that bulk upload, and in InkSoft I can control quite a bit of this. So I noticed you changed the color athletic gray to carbon gray. Did I catch that?
Yeah, we offer a carbon gray. It's a little deeper, richer. It's an upgrade to the old classic athletic heather.
Yeah, and you have a nice deep navy too, which you hit my soft spot right there, because when I think of navy blue, I think like almost black.
Yeah.
And you have that blazer navy and that carbon gray. So basically, when I imported that template, it imported all this data, including the product description and the sizing and the pricing, and even weights, so we can do shipping calculations. And all I had to do is just assign it to a store. So I went and assigned it and created that new store there. But I can assign it to the store. I can also make it available in the InkSoft Designer. So if we want to give people that online design experience, we can do that and assign it to a category. Decoration methods, it pulled in the front and the back decoration method. So I did have to assign a print region. I have to do that once. Once I do it once, it'll assign it across all the colors. So if we're creating a mock-up, I'll create a mock-up and kind of show you guys how that works in the platform. And then also I assigned what kind of decoration methods would be available for that product. That's important when we use what's called the Rapid Product Creator to create the actual visualization and mock-up. I'm not allowing this product to be bought blank. I guess I could add it to the designer if I wanted to, could add it to the InkSoft designer. And then colors and images, that all came in from the upload. Part of the upload is including the RGB or hex values for the color swatch. So it'll create the swatch. So it's actually a really pretty simple process. And then under pricing, all the pricing came in because it just came in from that Excel spreadsheet. And I could do pricing overrides. I put in $13 for this product. That's just like an average price if I want to sell it pre-decorated. But these pricing calculations would be used from our invoicing and proposals tool to do markups based on formulas. And then also be used for customers to get a quote in the InkSoft Designer. So that is how we do it. So I'm going to add this to the InkSoft Designer real quick. Let's go back in here and just add that. And I'm going to assign this to, I already have it in my eStore, so we'll just assign it to the designer in there. So all I'm going to do is go over here to decoration and make it available in the InkSoft Designer. We'll just go ahead and save changes there. And so that product I can design on it interactively. So that was the process of getting the Cotton Heritage products in. Super easy. And then once I did that, it was just a matter of creating the store. So what I did with the store, I cloned it. So I had another store that looked very similar to this. And what I did is I went and cloned that store. This store came over. All I do is change the banner and the colors and the logo. And we went from this to this. And all I had to do is pick the product. So let me show you how to add a product to this. What I would do is I would just go over here. And because Cotton Heritage, I have that library now, I just go to add products. And it's just chilling out in here. So we'll just add this crew. And I'll add navy right there, hit done. And let's upload a new graphic because InkSoft is a graphics driven platform, which is awesome. Means it can process graphics, meaning if I upload a PDF file or an SVG file, a vector file, it can process the graphic to the point where I can go in and actually change colors, and those change colors, that's going to be a production ready vector file. We download it. So let's just take a PDF in here and we'll just upload the soccer graphic real quick. Hit open, and it's pulling that up. And this will probably look terrific on carbon gray, but it's probably not going to look so awesome on the navy because there's actually blue in the graphic. So let's get that sized up and looking good right there. Looks good, but on the navy, we're losing that. So here's what I'm gonna do. Because it's a vector graphic and InkSoft's able to process that, I can take the navy and then just reassign it back to the gray. So it's actually one less color in the design too. And so for the navy version, I'm going to use colorway number 2. And for the carbon gray version, colorway number 1. So I don't have to go to my designer and say, hey, can you do a mock-up or can you recolor this for the navy shirt? Don't have to do that. All right, Ken, what do we want to charge for this thing? What do you think? What's going retail?
Yeah, I was going to say $49.99.
All right, we're going to do even 50, and then I got doubles in here, and I'm thinking 55 for the doubles. What do you think? About right? Okay. So I'm just going to hit finish. And here we go. And then I just need to add it to my store. So this is pretty easy. InkSoft is component driven. And so I'm just going to add a component, which is going to be a featured product. And let's just go to manage products. It'll just be hanging out right here. Let's go ahead and hit that, hit done. And we can save and publish that store. And I might want to move it up in the object order. So what I'm going to do is a little drag and drop and put that right over in here. And there you got a Cotton Heritage product just cruising along. And here's the neat part. I can clone this store and then we can do global art swaps. So it'll take all of the logos that have this logo on it, and I swap these out with East Boosters, and now they'll have the East Boosters logo on it. So basically, I've created the logos for both schools, but I don't have to manually change every logo on every product. If I have this logo as a placeholder on 25 products, and I swap the logo out, it's going to swap them across all 25. So that's how you can go from like here to here. What do you think of this so far, Ken? Have you ever really dug into InkSoft before?
I have not dug into InkSoft to this degree, and I'm glad you're leading this. I would have been lost on this, but I think it's amazing. I think it's, we refer to it as the easy button. I think it is just making it so easy for your customers to work with their customers. I think it's ideal. This is great. This is a great tool, and incredibly versatile. And I think you're doing a great job. Showing it to us right now as well.
So remember, I added that product to the InkSoft Designer, and every InkSoft store operates as its own private little business. They operate as standalones, and so I just added this to the Designer just for this store. I've got a lot of other cool things in the store, but now it's got the unisex tee in there, and I think I have it in 2 colors. And I'll just hit design now, and I want to add some art to it. And I'll let you guys in a little tip here. I made a living doing this, 1 color, collegiate arch. You got to have the right font. And let's see here. Got to get that perfect collegiate font. It's called Game Day. And this has got to have an arc on it. And we're going to come back over here. We're going to make the lettering. The copy has to be preferably, navy blue works really well. So let's make it a little bit fatter. And I'm just designing this. And let's go ahead and add a text shape, just a simple arc on it. Stretch it out a little bit. I literally made a living doing this right here. So when I was a manufacturer's rep in Colorado, this is the number one selling graphic in every college bookstore, in every resort, whether it said Aspen, Vail, Beaver Creek, and what absolutely cracks me up, when we go on vacation, we still see that classic athletic gray with the one color art literally everywhere. And then what you do is then you take it and you add the navy and you make the graphic and you add forest green and some of the other like basic colors and you do it in white. And let me tell you, I used to go into stores and I would tell the buyers, so listen, I will buy these back if they don't sell. And I would do it with a heavyweight t-shirt. Remember we were talking about that reverse weave we used to sew? I would do it with a heavyweight t-shirt, and then I would do it in like typically a reverse weave or an 80-20 high cotton. And these would just blow out. It was just rinse and repeat and reorder. And this still sells. So if you're talking
It's classic. Yeah, it's a classic. It will always sell.
It's the vintage, retro, the athletic font. It never goes anywhere. So if you're selling into the resort world, and it works for corporate too.
How it's merchandise. You have something that's very classic, very traditional, customers going to pick that up. More likely, if you have something that's a little more elaborate, a little more detailed, a little more special, the customer will pick that up. And, then you're looking at, two sales as opposed to just the one. So, I think that's a given, having that classic, again, that old school PE, we've all got it, we've all worn it. We've all had it in the past. So, I think offering that to the customer is key. So,
and let's go in and add a piece of art in this particular design here. What I did is I actually created graphics from our graphics flow platform, and in there I just made them into live templates, right? So that if I'm an East Eagles booster, and let's say my kid is on the badminton team or the tennis team, and I don't have to stock 27 different sports, the customer can go and self-service, and then I can put a minimum order quantity on this, say 24 units, and they can get a quote and check out. And they can change the colors in here. They can do all kinds of fun stuff. So these premium apparel is giving somebody that self-service, experience on a premium apparel item is a pretty cool thing to be able to do. I'll just kind of skip back to this store. A couple other fun things in here. We've got banners in here, but you can also direct link to a garment and have them do the name drop here. It doesn't have to be like upload your own graphic or type in a text. I could just have them direct link to this and add it. That's basically it. And then, the other part of this too, the customer has their own experience in terms of a portal. And so we can give the end user the ability to see all their metrics so they can see what's selling, what their last orders are, if there's a fundraiser, where they're at, previous orders, if they want to reorder. They can come over here and just say, hey, let's reorder. So it's that self-service Amazon experience. It's really about making it easy for customers to buy and creating that buying experience where you just don't really have to think a whole lot. And, I think premium apparel, one of the keys is when you're doing a store to really build up the product description and define why it's better in the product description, which you guys have absolutely stellar product descriptions. And the other thing that you guys do is that really great product photography. And honestly, I'm not just saying this. You guys have probably amongst the best flat product photography I've seen from anybody.
Yeah, it's been important for us to make it, as easy as we can for our customers to work with us. You've said that a couple of times in the last few minutes, that just you want to simplify the process. You want to give your customer the best service you can. We need to make it easy for our customers to work with us. Because there's so many options out there. And, I think we've been successful with that. It is certainly a mantra that we live by, and we'll continue to do what we can to make sure that our customers, have the ease of use. The easy button, again, is what we refer to. So.
Yeah. And a couple little tips around like store building too, if you're going to incorporate, products into a store, you can always I would segregate it. You can always do a basic product, a price point product from brand X. You can always do that, but don't put a great graphic on it. Put something pretty basic on it. Save your best graphics for the premium apparel, your best processes for the premium apparel. This one, I just did a little left chest pocket embroidery on it. We could add a complementary product in here. I could add a hat that went in here as part of this sequence. Then a multicolor print right in here. So put your basic boring graphics on your basic boring products, your lower price products. And that creates some variation too.
It goes back to the good, better, best, and we've already, said this. It's not just about the garment; it's about the printing process or the decorating process that you're going to put onto that garment as well. There should be some correlation between the two.
So, how do you keep people out of becoming commodity brokers? What's your advice about, because it's easy to fall into that trap, right? Because like we said before, some people are just wired for price. I'm not talking about the printer. I'm talking about the end user. The person that's.
Yeah. Clearly, I think it's, a strong brand justifies, a higher price, a better quality garment. I do think that we have to remind, our customer, the end user, that they are putting, they're putting their brand on this and they're putting it out into the market. The last thing you want is your brand on a garment that just doesn't feel good, doesn't fit good, doesn't perform well. So there is a reason to invest. And when I say invest, we're not talking about a significant price difference between, that opening price giveaway t-shirt and what we're talking about for our garments. It is not a significant price jump. Is it more expensive? Yes, absolutely. But again, you're going to elevate your brand. You're going to give your customer a better experience, and they're going to have a better relation to that garment, that brand, and what it means to them. So, ultimately, we want our t-shirts and the brand on those t-shirts to be, that customer's number one go-to. When they open up that drawer, that's the first t-shirt they're going to put on because they like it. And then, oh wow, look at it. It's got whatever logo, whatever brand is on there, and it just kind of equates. It's subliminal to some degree. I guess I would say that they have a better feel for that brand because they have a better feel for that t-shirt.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I just popped in some pricing. I was just honestly a little bit shocked when I looked at like your price points they're right in there for premium apparel. And it's also the needlework. Your products have really good needlework. And I'm very tuned into needlework,
Yeah, we put a lot of effort into the products, and we've spent a lot of time talking about tees, as I've said, combed ring, spun cotton, side seam. But really, when we get into our fleece, I think we have one of the best fleece on the market, and everything we use, everything we do with our fleece, we use a 3-end yarn. So that is 2 strands of cotton with wrapped around the poly. So you get a better hand feel, better printability, better stretch, and it's cotton faced. So even though all of our fleece is a blended garment, when you're touching it, you are touching cotton basically. So one, it feels better and it prints better. So 3-end yarn, cotton face. We put everything we can into the garment. We're not looking at, what we can take out of it to lessen the cost. We're building a premium blank. And like I said, I think our fleece, even more so than our t-shirts in some way, we've really built a great garment.
Yeah. Heavyweight tee for under $5. So there you go.
And weight is clearly what is trending right now. In t-shirts, we have multiple weights. We go from a 4.3 ounce, 5.5, 6.5 to a 7 ounce. And in fleece, we're 7 ounce, 8.5 ounce, 10 ounce, and 14 ounce. So we have a pretty full range of products as well. And right now, that 7 ounce tee and that 10 ounce hood is really what is kind of trending, in the market right now.
Tell you what's refreshing is to see a XX that's basically $1.15 more. I'm sometimes shocked when I go into my account from, some of the big blank wholesale suppliers and I see a $3 upcharge on a XX or XXX t-shirt, a XXX $5 or $6 more. And I'm like,
yeah.
I think we all are when we see that. So yeah, like your pricing is really fair on your big sizes. So 2 questions I'd like to wrap up with. What's the biggest myth about premium apparel that you wish more shops understood?
All t-shirts aren't created equal. There are processes in place that certainly add cost, but they add quality. They take that garment to a premium level. So I think it's really most importantly justifying the cost. And you said it earlier in this conversation. Not apologizing for what you're presenting and the price that you're putting in front of a customer. I think there's a true value proposition that comes from it as well. Premium quality and exclusivity, I think kind of go hand in hand. And ultimately you're selling an experience. So you want to be able to deliver something that a customer really can see the perceived value. I think that is really what is most important when you're talking about a premium blank. You've got to deliver what you're talking about. We have to show the customer that there's a benefit, there's a difference, that it is not like the other tees or hoodies that they may be using. And then clearly it's going to drive, a higher retail price. So you're going to look at a better gross profit at the end of the day.
You also have to sell your team on the idea. Salespeople, we take the path of least resistance. And, if you math it out, and especially if somebody's on commission, they're just going to make a lot more money selling the premium apparel. But you got to get buy-in from your team and your staff. And that requires
Absolutely.
some training.
Yeah.
And obviously it's always better when you have consensus and everybody agrees, but sometimes you have to do the old, hey, this is kind of how we're doing it these days. You can incentivize, give somebody a bonus if they've moved their margins up or if they've moved into higher gross sales by virtue of promoting the premium apparel lines. Throw them a little, extra love in their paycheck. That's one thing that models behavior for salespeople is more money in their wallet. So best money you'll ever spend. The last question that I want to kind of wrap up with is, what's that one piece of advice for decorators? What would you give out as that one piece of advice?
I think it's just really managing the process and managing your customers' expectations and taking care of your customer. I mean, this is nothing unique. This is nothing that is, specific to Cotton Heritage alone. There are a lot of options out there. I think our customers have a lot of choices. And I think it's important that, we deliver on what we say we're going to deliver, and certainly take care of our customers, give them a reason to only come back to us and not go anywhere else. So I think it's, being honest with your customer, taking care of your customer, supporting your customer, delivering what you told them you were going to deliver. And from our perspective, it's delivering them a premium product. So they're going to see the difference in what they're purchasing from Cotton Heritage, and their customers should see that as well.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of wrap up and say, I think this is a good opportunity after watching this webinar, whether you're on the live or the recording, to kind of look at your product mix and take a deep look at how you're currently doing things and make some decisions around, could I be getting higher margins just by kind of repositioning our marketing or our price list or our sampling? And also challenge yourself to, look at your vendors, bring some samples in, get samples in the hands of your customers, because honestly, when you have those high cotton products that feel great, it builds brand loyalty. They'll come back to you, for more. They'll wash better. They look better. Everything's just better. So I would just, recommend taking a hard look at how you're currently doing and see if there's some room for improvement there. And everybody's got room for higher margins and more profit, right?
I think you said, the brand loyalty, really making it, leaving your customer no doubt to come back to you. They had the level of service they expected. They got the quality they expected. The price was what was expected. The delivery was what was expected. So any of those things, because I think, the reality is, we're going to see fewer and fewer customers going forward. I'm sorry to say, I think that's the nature of the economy right now. And I think we've got to find a way to make sure that we're maximizing and taking care of the customers we've got currently and delivering the best product, the best value that we can to those customers, and giving them no reason not to come back.
Absolutely. So thank you all for joining us on Decorator Academy. Thanks, Ken, for coming on. It's been a blast. We'll have to do this again sometime. And
thanks for putting it together, Craig. I appreciate it.
You are most welcome. All right. Take care, folks.